Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Scholz. Today we have a new story from Legends of the Rhine by Wilhelm Reuland. This, like a number of other tales, is about wine and how a particular wine came to be. This is Johannisberg. Wherever the German tongue is heard, and even further still, the king of all Rhine wines, Johannisberger, is known and sought after. Every friend of the grape which grows on the banks of this river is well acquainted with it, but few perhaps know of its princely origin. It is princely not because princes' hands once kept the key to Johannisberg, but rather because princely hands planted the vine in the Rhine country. And this royal giver was no other than Charlemagne, the all-powerful ruler of the kingdom of the Franks. Once, in early spring, Charles the Great was standing on the balcony of his castle at Ingelheim, his eyes straying over the beautiful stretch of country at his feet. Snow had fallen during the night, and the hills of Rudesheim were clothed in white. As the imperial ruler was looking thoughtfully over the landscape, he noticed that the snow on one side of Johannisberg melted quicker in the sun's rays than on any other part. Charles, who was a great and deep thinker, began to reflect that, on a spot where the rays of the sun shone so genially, something better than grass would thrive. Sending for Conrad his faithful servant, he bade him saddle his horse the next day at dawn and ride to Orleans, a town famous for its good wine. He was to inform the citizens that the emperor had not forgotten the excellent wine that they had given him there, and that he would like to grow the same vines on the Rhine. He desired the citizens of Orleans, therefore, to send him plants from their country. The messenger set off to do the king's bidding, and ere the moon had again gone round her course, was back in the castle at Ingelheim. Great satisfaction prevailed at court. Charles, mighty ruler that he was, even went so far as to cross the Rudesheim, where he planted with his royal hand the French vine in German soil. This was no mere passing whim on the part of the emperor. He sent messengers constantly to bring word how the vines were thriving at Rudesheim and on the flanks of Johannisberg, and, when the third autumn had come round, the Emperor Charlemagne set out from his favorite resort, Aix-la-Chapelle, for the Rhine country, and great rejoicing prevailed among the vine reapers from Rudesheim to Johannisberg. The first cup of wine was solemnly offered to the emperor, a golden wine in a golden goblet, a wine worthy of a king. Charles took a long, deep draught, and, with brightened eyes, praised the delicious drink. It became his favorite wine, this fiery Johannisberger, making him young again in his old age. What Charlemagne then felt when he drank this wine, everyone who raises the sparkling grape juice to his lips is keenly sensible of also. Wherever the German tongue is heard, and even further still, the king of all Rhine wines is known and sought after, Johannisberger wine. The legend weaves another wonderful tale about the great emperor blessing his grapes. A poet's pen has fashioned it into a song which is still often heard among the grape-gatherers. Every spring, when the vines are blossoming on the hills and in the valleys along the river, and their fragrance scents the air, a tall shadow wanders about the vineyards at night, a purple mantle hanging from his stately shoulders and a crown on his head. It is Charlemagne, the great emperor, who planted the grapes long years before. The luscious scent of the blossoms wakens him from his tomb in Aix-la-Chapelle, and he comes to bless the grapes. When the full moon gently casts her bright beams on the water, lighting up the emperor's nightly path, he may be seen crossing the golden bridge formed by her rays, and then wandering further along the hills, blessing the vines on the other side of the river. At the first crow of the cock he returns to his grave in Aix-la-Chapelle, and sleeps till the scent of the grapes awakens him next spring, when he again wanders through the countries along the Rhine, blessing the vineyards. Let us now relate another little story which is told of the monks who lived at Johannisberg. Once the High Abbot of Fulda came unexpectedly to visit the cloister at Johannisberg just about the time when the grapes were ripe. The worthy abbot had made inquiries about his people and showed himself highly pleased with the works of the industrious monks, and as a mark of his continued favor, invited all the inmates of the cloister to a drinking bout. "Wine maketh the heart glad." Thus quoting King David's significant words, the holy man began his speech. "God's loving hand will be gracious in future years to your vines. Let us profit by his grace, brothers, and drink what he has provided for us in moderation and reverence. But before we refresh ourselves with God's good gifts, take your breviaries and let us begin with a short prayer." "Breviaries?" was whispered along the rows, and the eyes of the fat genial faces blinked in helpless embarrassment. "Yes, your breviaries," said the white-haired abbot, looking silently but sternly at the brothers. They searched and searched. Gradually the frown disappeared from the abbot's face, and a smile gradually spread over his withered features. "Well, never mind, let us drink," he said. Then, feeling his pockets, he said with a gleam in his eye, "That's too bad. I ought to have brought a corkscrew with me when I came to the Rhine." "A corkscrew!" Everyone dives his hand into his pocket, and as many corkscrews were produced before the worthy abbot as there were brothers present. Then a gleam of merriment beamed in the abbot's eyes. "Bravo, ye pious monks! What a plentiful supply of corkscrews! Do not all look so embarrassed. We shall not be annoyed about it today, but tomorrow. Now, we shall sing with King David, 'Wine maketh the heart glad,'" and the uncorked bottle went the rounds. And that is 3 tales about Johannisberg and its wonderful wine, the Johannisberger. This is Dan Scholz from the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you like to listen. And you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As always, thank you so much for listening.